Hey, Math Moment Makers, it's Kyle here for another short little classroom sneak peek video. Today I'm really excited because in many of the other videos that we've discussed, we're typically looking at problem-based math lessons that are really sort of the start of the learning journey, which is fantastic. Today, we're going to do something a little bit different that might actually help you with some of the questions that you may have after that first day of a problem-based unit. We'll talk more about it on the other side. All right, so what topic are we talking about here today? It is multiplying fractions. And actually, if you dig back into some of our previous videos, you'll see that I've got some classroom sneak peeks around multiplying and even dividing fractions. But here's the thing, we were showing what you would do to introduce this concept, introduce this topic using a contextual problem-based math unit called shoveling the driveway. Let's take a moment here and let's share that with you. If you head over to our Make Math Moments website and you scroll down, you'll see that we have our shoveling the driveway unit right there for you. And you can dive into this unit. And again, you can go back and see what day one of this problem-based unit might look like for you in your classroom. When you dig in on day one, we're basically given the context of a gentleman who in that case is actually me, shoveling the driveway in two different sections. At the end, what ends up happening is we sort of give students this prompt. Here's the actual struggle prompt from day one, just to give you context before we dive in today, where basically the first person comes out, shovels 1/4 of the driveway, goes inside, gets warm, has some hot chocolate, and then the second person, who happens to be my son, Lando Bando, comes out and clears 1/3 of the remaining snow-covered part of the driveway. And the questions that we ask students are like, how much of the entire driveway is this section? And then after we ask, how much of the driveway is still covered in snow? These are two prompts which essentially emerge the idea of multiplying fractions. We go through that, we consolidate, we do all kinds of great stuff, but the problem is a lot of teachers wonder, what is it that we do like the next day? So I do this problem with students. Some students are with me, but still some students may not be with me. And you know what? That happens a lot. So what we're going to look at today is what day two might look like. Recently, I had used this particular problem with a class of students. And we had a lot of students who were struggling with some misconceptions. I had not actually been using, this was a class I sort of jumped into, so I don't know these students beyond, the first day of that lesson. So I don't know what they're bringing to the table in terms of strategies and models. I'm learning that as I go. And what we realized at the end is that students really needed some more support with modeling these multiplication of fractions scenarios. So what you're going to see in just a moment is jumping into a class the next day when we realized, okay, we need to pump the brakes here. Let's make sure students are with us and let's build on this context. So we start talking about the neighbors' driveways, and something in particular I want you to pay attention to is the fact that I'm not having to spend all that time sparking curiosity because we already have the context set. Students understand the situation that someone comes out, they do a section of the driveway, they go in, they come back out, they do another section of the driveway, and that really sets us up for a beautiful multiplication of fractions context. So let's dive into that classroom. Let's see where we start. And basically what we're sharing is the problem string or the math talk from day two that you can leverage with your students after you use, say, day one with this context. Into day two, we can build on this idea, leveraging a math talk by modeling what students are thinking and the strategies that they bring to the table. So let's not waste any time. Let's dive in now, and I will see you on the other side of this classroom sneak peek. Guess what? There's a lot of driveways to be shoveled. And I want to give you all an opportunity to help us try to determine how much of a driveway was shoveled. And we're going to give you, and we're going to start here. The goal here, I'm going to start you off with our first one. And I want you to model this at home. And I really want you, like when you model it and then it clicks, you're going to go, oh my goodness, I feel great about this. This is not a concept that you just want to memorize how to do. We want you to really conceptualize it, really understand it so that if you get into a situation, you can model it for yourself and help you get through that tough situation. So today what we're going to do is I'm going to tell you that on a different driveway, this is a neighbor's driveway, brand new driveway. I mean, it's not a new driveway. It's just got a brand new coat of snow on it. It's fully covered in snow. And the neighbor came out and shoveled one half of the driveway, okay? The neighbor came out and shoveled one half of the driveway, all right? I want you to draw what that looks like, okay? I want you to draw. I want everyone to draw your driveway. I'm gonna draw it over to the side here, leave me a little bit of room to work. Here's this driveway. We're going to assume it's a rectangular driveway, but I mean, really, the fractional amount, having it rectangular is easier for us as the mathematicians here, but really it could be any shaped driveway. It'd just be much harder to draw. The result will be the same here. So I want to give you a moment here. Let's draw. What does it look like if this entire driveway is snow covered? You can draw it any way you'd like, any half you'd like, but I'm going to argue that having it in a horizontal or vertical fashion is probably going to be more helpful for you than, say, having it this way or doing some sort of really creative design. But again, that's up to you. It just might make it a little harder on you later. All right. So let's get our half going. I'm pretty confident, Miss. I know this group really well. And friends, give us some emojis here if you are good with drawing your half driveway. I'm going to draw it this way. However, you may have drawn it this way. It's totally up to you. But I'm going to model mine this way, like this. And I'm going to say, you know what? They came out and they had shoveled this portion of the driveway. So that's all shoveled. All right, here it is. One half of the driveway is shoveled. There's the whole driveway. Now, here's the thing. All right, once again, they went in, took a break, came back out to shovel for a second session. And watch how I write this, okay? Because this is really important. So this is like, the first session. We did one half. Notice that what is left to shovel is one half. We have one half the driveway left to shovel. And I'm going to tell you that this person came out for their second session and they shoveled one half of the remaining one half of the driveway. Okay, so they shoveled one half of the remaining one half of the driveway. My question for you is, how much of the driveway did they shovel in the second session? All right, so we don't care about this session. Yep. So half of the driveway still has snow. Yep, and I see a few more coming in here. I'm just hearting a few that are coming in, which is great. Yeah, and I want you to think about what that looks like. Now, I want to also reiterate here that the way you draw it might not be exactly the way I draw it. Like, naturally, if you want to shovel more of the driveway and I want to do like half of this remaining amount, you might choose to like keep on going this way and like do half that way. Or some people might do it like, remember the other day where we kind of went vertically. It really doesn't matter. It is up to you. I'm going to just do it. I'm going to do it vertically because I feel like it's a little easier to see, but maybe I'll draw it the other way too, just to make sure that everybody's with us here. I want to make sure everyone's got this. So I'm curious, Miss, maybe you can describe, how did you see us shoveling half of this remaining half. Because remember, like half is gone, half remains, and I want to shovel half of the remaining half of the driveway. I know the word sounds confusing to everybody here, but this is what multiplying fractions is. And I want it to be something you can visualize, like happening in your real life here. Okay, let's see it there, miss. I like your drawing. Oh. So like, did you start like this? Like you started kind of like going vertically? Cool. So I'm going to do that for now and follow your thinking, and let's see if it like works out both ways. Okay. So you wanted to do super cool. So you're like, okay, I know, like, you know, we can see, right? Half of the remaining is like the cut somewhere there, that partition. We use that word partition a lot here with fractions. If I partition that, like it doesn't matter which half goes, it's gonna be fine, right? Like I could go, okay, like let's go ahead and uncover, like let's uncover this for a second. Just for everybody else to sort of see that like in the real world, you're not really thinking much about what you already did. You're just like looking at, here's what I've got, right? I have half my driveway and I'm gonna do half of that. And that is totally fine. But when I say, how much did we actually, like, how much of the whole driveway is this chunk? That's where this idea that Miss has used can maybe help us. Because look at this. This is a different size than that, right? This is the same size as this, so that's great. But it's like apples and oranges, right? So it's like, you know what? If we can draw this, some of you might just have this visual in your mind. Like if we extend that line, this chunk is as big as this chunk, and this chunk's as big as that. They're all the same chunk. So extending the line can be really helpful. And right now I feel like, and friends in our chat here, the only thing I'm going to ask for friends who are sharing in the chat, remember to try to describe what you did or how you did it. That's really important here. So I'm going to go ahead and argue that, you know what, right here, this is 1/4 of the whole. I love it. And like, look at this. I went this way first, but it doesn't really matter. Like I can go this way next, and it's like, it's still the same. It's just rotated around, which is great. So I'm going to argue that 1/2 of 1/2 is 1/4 of the driveway. So one thing I want to highlight for everyone as we move forward here is something is staying consistent, and that is what the whole is. This is the whole driveway. The driveway is our unit of measure that we're describing. Okay? So that's something that's really important for us to be thinking about as we move forward. Now, one other thing I wanted to share, just in case somebody did it a little different. Look at this. The driveway looks a little smaller over here, okay? It's like, picture we zoomed out a bit. And someone might have said, well, you know what? I did this. They're like, I did the same thing, but then what I did my half, like, is it okay? Am I allowed to do half the driveway like this? And I'm going to say, like, because this, to be honest, this is how I would shovel a driveway. Like, I personally don't go like one direction half and then another direction the other half. I just want to like help everybody see that like you could still do it this way and it should be the same, right? Because look at, I go, wait, if this is the chunk I just did, the only other thing I need to think about is how do I make these equal chunks? Oh, look at that. I can make the equal chunks this way. And I still have, look at this chunk is 1/4 of the whole driveway. This chunk is 1/4 of the whole driveway. It really doesn't matter. It's totally up to you. If I want to think of, now I can look and I can answer questions like, well, wait a second, how much of the whole driveway have we shoveled in total? Well, I can see 1/4, 2/4, 3/4. How much of the driveway is left to shovel? 1/4. I look over here, same result. 3/4 of the driveway has been shoveled. 1/4 is left over. Rock and roll. How is everybody feeling with that? Let's see some emojis. I want to challenge you here though, friends. I want to try to challenge you. Let's see some emojis here. All right, here is our next scenario I have for you. We're still shoveling driveways. It's totally up to you, okay? First session, and I'm even going to go ahead and I'm just going to draw what it looks like for the first session. First session, this is neighbor number 2. So it's a different neighbor. First session, that neighbor says, yep, you know what? I'm going to do half, and then I'm going inside. So they did half the driveway. Now, the neighbor comes back out for session number 2 and does 1/4 of the remaining driveway left to be shoveled. Now, why I said it that way is because I want you to think about that. Like, how much is left of the whole driveway? And I want to do 1/4 of the remaining. What fraction's left over? 1/2. So the question I have for you is I want you to do 1/4 of 1/2 of the remaining driveway to be shoveled. So there is half of the driveway left. Okay. And I'm even like, I want to put some arrows here. Like this is what we're referring to here. And I want you to do 1/4 of that remaining half. All right. I'm going to give you a little bit of time to think. And I would love it if you don't just share the result. I want to know how much was shoveled. Okay, let's see. Okay, and I'm actually, can I pause right just for 1 second? I want to ensure everybody is drawing this. Okay, so you might be able to envision this in your mind, like you've got a clear picture and you're feeling amazing about it. Awesome. That is fantastic if you've already got that going on in your mind. We just want to make sure that when these get more difficult, like notice the fractions I'm giving you are not super challenging fractions yet. When it gets harder, like more complex, you want to be able to know and feel confident in this model, okay? So if anyone else would like to share, we'd love to see it in the chat. Let's see if we can make sense of this. Now, the only question I have for you there, miss, when you said that the remaining half, which is this chunk right here, when that remaining half, we want to do 1/4 of it, you had said they partitioned it into 4, but the only part I missed, and you might have said this, the only part I missed was, did they partition it horizontally, vertically, a combination? Like, how did they do that? Awesome. Now, I just want to reassure people that, remember, the way you do the driveway, like nobody's going to tell you that you have to shovel the driveway a certain way. So like some people might choose and they go, you know what? I'm going to partition into fourths like this, like visualize those lines going all the way through. That will work. Is it okay if I partition it this way? Like, is that okay too, miss? What do you think? Awesome. I've got a question for everyone here. I want you to think about it. Okay, so we talked about how it's okay to partition this way. It's okay to partition this way. It might make your model look a little different, but at the end, you should have the same amount of the driveway cleared, okay? Here's a question. I wonder, what if somebody wants to partition it this way to get fourths? Because look at this. If I go like that, is like that still going to work? Maybe do a little exploring on your own there, friends. And if you're curious about it, we will tell you. So let us know in the chat if you're really curious about that. Like, will this work? I don't want to complicate things, so I'm just going to follow what Miss had said. She said, whoever shared in the chat with them, they said, you know what? Let's like go horizontal here and let's do it. The only thing with going horizontal here is that you're not going to see like the natural partitions to like get all of your chunks into the same size, but that's okay. I like this. I like this as a challenge here. Like I want to look at this and go, okay, well, I'm just going to put my little partitions. All right. So you're saying like, and remember in real life, you're not going out there with the shovel and like doing this. It's just, this person, I'm guessing, probably continued to shovel this fourth of the remaining half. And then I guess my question is for everybody then, how much is 1/4 of 1/2? So we had 1/2. How much is this relative to the whole driveway? That's what I'm really asking here. When I say 1/4 of 1/2 of the driveway. There's 1/2 of the driveway and I want 1/4 of it. That's this chunk right here. So this entire expression right here is represented by this chunk right here. That chunk only. But my question is, what is that? Like, what do I call this section? How much is that? You can't just say it's like, it's 1/4, because it's not 1/4. It's 1/4 of 1/2 of the driveway. All right. If this is the whole driveway, then it's 1/4. But this is 1/4 of 1/2 of the driveway. So now what are we going to do in order to get all of the sizes, all the pieces of the driveway to be the same size? Because right now I got a half and then I got a 1/4 of a half. Eek. So if you're envisioning right here, like taking this and going, well, if I just took this as a template and I plopped it right there, that would get me the same number of pieces. Like, look at this. There's halving my half. This is fourthing my other half. If I fourth my other half, look at the size of the pieces I'm going to get. Holy smokes, let's go ahead and do it. I know that if I want fourths, halving is helpful, and then having a half is also helpful. So now I look and I say, okay, 1/4 of 1/2 is shoot, what are these called now? What are those called? Darn. Let's see. Well, let's count them. Okay, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There are 8. Oh my gosh. So that means that this is an eighth, that's an eighth, that's an eighth, that's an eighth. You know what? This section right here is 1/8 of the whole driveway. Let's see some emojis. Are you feeling good about this, friends? Are you looking at this going like, that makes sense? Are we good? I'm understanding what you're saying. I'm hoping sometimes, friends at home, just remember, like math, some people say math is complicated, and I always like to correct them. And I say, actually, no, math itself is not complicated. It is complex. What we as humans make it complicated sometimes by trying to make everything into a trick, you know, like by just trying to like know the answer to stuff without really knowing what's going on. It is complex. You do have to think about it. But remember, that's why we're in school. Like we're in school to like grow our brains so that we can do really complex things and solve complex problems. Over here, we chopped it into like, remember, that's 1/2 of the driveway right here. And we wanted to know what was 1/4 of 1/2. Well, there's 1/4 of a half. You could see that's great. But now the question is, how much is this chunk relative to the whole driveway? So when I came out and I shovel this part of the driveway, if someone says, wait a second, how much did you shovel? I could say two things. I could say I shoveled 1/4 of the remaining driveway, right? So it's like I shoveled 1/4 of the snow that was left to do. But they might say, okay, but like how much of the whole driveway was that? And you say, oh, well, it was actually only 1/8 of the whole driveway. It's 1/4 of the remaining snow. It's 1/8 of the entire driveway. Now, if I cut it this other way, I'm going to do it this way just to show it will work no matter what. If I go and I cut it this way and I say, okay, well, like here's my half remaining. I could cut that in half. Like if I do this, then I've done half of half. That's what we did the last time, right? Half of half. All right. But this time we want to do 1/4 of half the driveway. So I'm like, okay, like, and you get to pick which fourth you do. Like nowhere up here does it say this means it's this fourth or it's that fourth of the half. Like it could have been this one. Like you get to choose as long as it's the amount. There's nothing saying which chunk of the driveway you've done. It's just how much of the driveway. So if I go over here, you might say, you know what? I'm going to do this fourth of the driveway. That's cool. Let's do it. All right. You're like, I just want to do this because I'm cool. Awesome. The problem is now someone says, okay, so you did 1/4 of the remaining half. Great. But then they say like, but how much of the whole driveway is that? And I go, this is a different size than these. So I've got to fix that because this is a different chunk of that. And if I look over here, like, look at this. If I extend this line, I'm closer. Like these chunks are closer to this size, but actually this size is actually double that size. Look at this. This is the same size as this. So I don't want to compare this to a size that's not the same. Like imagine that you were like, hey, why don't we just like, you give me some money, I give you some money and it's great. And you're like, okay, I'll give you $100 bill. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to give you a $50 bill back. Well, that's not very nice. That's not equal. I don't want to trade. I don't want to be talking about this size versus a completely different size. I want to talk about the same size. So let's extend there. And all I've done is I'm just chopping the driveway up into more chunks. Instead of it being originally 2 chunks, we chopped this into 4 chunks and that into an additional 4 chunks. Guess what? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 chunks. There are 8 chunks in the entire driveway. 8 out of 8 chunks is the entire driveway. That's equal to 1 driveway. But in the second session, we only shoveled 1/8 of the entire driveway. So this is the same as that. Well, at least, you know what? It's one of those things where at least it's like the more, and I promise you this, my friends, all my intermediate friends, math at this stage in life, it is all about like looking at it and thinking about it and not giving up on it. If you give up on it, then it's not going to make any sense. Like if you shut your brain down, but if you kind of like, you keep looking, you try to make meaning of it, you try to make sense of it, you'll eventually go, oh my gosh, that makes perfect sense. Boom. Okay. You know what that means? I know what that means. I think so. All right, these markers, I need better markers. They bleed right through the page. This is a problem. If anyone has any suggestions on markers that are great, like I love these markers, like how they feel and how they work. They're kind of like mini Sharpies. They're cheap Sharpies, but they bleed. If anybody has a suggestion for me, please let me know in the chat. I will follow your advice. Okay, I've got a third neighbor. Neighbor's got a driveway. Remember, I don't actually care if the neighbor's driveway is rectangular, if it's circular, if it's semicircle. Like, I don't care. If they tell me an accurate measurement in fractional form, I just have to trust they're telling me the truth, and I can model it on a rectangle. Like a rectangle is the easiest to chunk up and in order to get a good sense of how much of the driveway they've shoveled, okay? So this particular neighbor came out, and this particular neighbor said, you know what? In session number one, this neighbor came out and actually shoveled. So I'm going to write session number 1. Came out and shoveled 1/4 of the driveway. Now I'm not going to draw it. I want you to draw it. I want you to draw what does that look like right now before I tell you the rest of this story. Because I could tell you the story, but then I'm kind of robbing you. Because really, like what I need to know now is like, you know, in order to talk about coming out for a second shoveling session, like I sort of need to know like how much is left to shovel. Like that's sort of the question I'm wondering from you right now. This one, like everybody should be able to do this. Like this is not, you know, this is not a challenge at all. I trust, I would bet money that every single one of you are able to tell me how much of the driveway is left to shovel after this first session. So take a moment, tell us in the chat. Once you do, I hope you have it drawn too, because I'm going to draw and then I'm going to tell you the rest of the story, because that's sort of where the real thinking happens. All right, nice work, my friends. I'm getting some chats individually to me. How about you, miss? Has anyone told you how much is left to shovel? Holy smokes. Okay, I'm looking at my chat. I'm sure it's coming up in your chat too. I see someone that says, if you've shoveled 1/4 of the driveway, then there will be 3/4 of the driveway left. Okay, honestly, everybody out there, give me some emojis if you're like, of course, right? If I shovel 1/4 of the driveway, all right, I'm gonna use my trusty little like partitioning tools here. If I shovel 1/4 of the driveway, I'm gonna have 3/4 left, right? Because like we're talking about a whole driveway. Awesome. So I'm gonna put my partitions in here. It's not perfect, right? Remember, we're not trying to be perfect here. We're just trying to guide our thinking. If it's super messy though and super disorganized, your model is actually going to confuse you more than help you. So you got to make sure it's at least like reasonable where you can see what it is you're talking about. So you're telling me we've shoveled 1/4. Remember, it doesn't matter what fourth they shovel. Just don't forget, like, you know, I could shovel this fourth first, or I could shovel this fourth first, or I could shovel like this fourth first, but it just makes your life a little harder later. So I'm just assuming that it's the first fourth from the top here. All right, here's the rest of the story, which is important for you to think now, okay? Session number 2. And I just want to highlight, so again, 1/4 was shoveled. That means there was 3/4 left over right there. So session number 2, they came out and they did, I'm going to make this a little trickier. I can't wait. This is great. I think you're ready for it though. I think you're ready for it. They came out and they shoveled 1/3 of the remaining 3/4 of the driveway. So in other words, what I'm saying is they did 1/3 of 3/4 of the driveway. What does it look like? Worry about the look like first. Some of you who have already like learned about multiplying fractions may notice there's like a rule emerging here. There's a rule that will always work with fractions, but I want you to focus on the why first, okay? We can talk about the rules after you feel really confident, because there's a reason why this is happening. And it's, oh my gosh, it's so mad, like it truly is magical. I know sometimes I get emotional when I'm dealing with math, but it's awesome. Okay. All right, I'm seeing some typing happening, which really makes me so happy. Remember, when you share with us too, we're not looking for perfection here, okay? That is not what this is about. I look at all of math thinking should be kind of like writing a rough draft of a story, or writing a rough draft of a research paper or an essay. It should be messy at first. And then once you know and once you're convinced, then you can worry about making it a little bit more presentable to share with other people. But here we're just trying to, let's get our thinking out. All right, I see a couple coming in. Oh, somebody, okay, here, I'm going to challenge you. Somebody said, and I'm looking at the time here. Somebody said, I'm guessing it's in total, that in total you've shoveled 1/2 of the driveway. You might be true. I don't know though, because you haven't convinced me. I don't know how you've done this, but I want to be very clear on what my question is. Although I'm curious to see if the question you answered is helpful as well. I want to know, how much of the driveway did we shovel during session 2? Okay. Now, one way I could describe it to you is I could tell you that actually during session 2, I know exactly how much of the driveway that I've cleared, because I know it was 1/3 of the remaining 3/4. That's the answer. It really is. But I'm wondering if there's like an easier way for someone so they don't have to visualize in their mind what's 3/4 of the driveway and then what's 1/3 of that. I want to know, like, what is that chunk relative to the whole driveway? Then we can talk about how much of the entire driveway we've shoveled. So right now, I'm not really concerned about this as part of my answer. I want to know this. What is this relative to the whole? Because this is 1/4 and it has nothing to do with this. All right? This of that is some chunk of this portion right here. That's what we're referencing, and I want to know, what is it relative to the whole? All right, let's see. Let's see if we've got any coming in. Any action on your end yet, miss? Okay, I'm curious. Okay, if you're working on this at home, I want to see some emojis. Right now, if you feel confident in how you're going to at least partition this section, because remember, this is the section we're concerned about right now, okay? I am dealing with, this is how much snow is left to shovel. We know relative to the whole driveway, it's 3/4 of the whole driveway. I did 1/3 of this chunk. So I'm hoping, Miss, can you help me here? Somebody has told me, they said if it's 1/3, you need to chop it into thirds. So Miss, can you describe what that might look like or sound like if I'm chopping this into thirds? Let's see it. I love it. So it's almost like you, in a way, you're ignoring these lines for a little bit, and you're just kind of, yeah, like you're just imagining. It's like, well, here's a chunk, and here's a chunk. I'm wondering, I'm wondering, I'm going to challenge people. If you did it that way, awesome. I wonder, can anyone see what 1/3 of this chunk is? Because oh, look at that. It's like if so you went vertically this way, Miss, which is totally 100% amazing. But also, look what I could do. It's like it's just on a platter for me right there. It's like, you know what? One of these. You pick. You get to pick. It's like, do I want this chunk or that chunk or that chunk? Or do you want this chunk? Do you want this chunk or do you want that chunk? It really is totally up to you at home. I know for me, because, I mean, if I can, I'm going to try to make this a little bit more efficient for myself. I'm going to say, like, in the second go, I'm going to say that I did this chunk right here. So now I want to go back to my friend who shared in the chat and said, and they even said it was almost like, they were like, it's too easy. You've shoveled half the entire driveway. I agree. I have shoveled half the entire driveway. But my question for you is this. How much of the entire driveway is 1/3 of 3/4? So we all agreed that this chunk is this chunk right here. So my question is, how much of the driveway did I shovel in the second session? And the answer is, oh, here comes an image. Super cool. Let's see if I can share it. Look at this. Super cool. Let me bring it over. It's great to be able to bring it over. Let's go. Oh, over here. Look at that. And look, it's almost like they use some of the same thinking that I use. They just took this chunk down here instead of my chunk up here. So my chunk is like this one right here. Their chunk is that one right there. And they're saying session number 2 is this. Now, this person said this is half the driveway, but I'm wondering again, it's like when I look at what this is alone, this is 1/2 of 3/4, but this chunk is 1, 2, 3, 4. This is 1/4 of the entire driveway. So when I look at that, holy smackaroos, that is 1/4 of the entire driveway. If I want to look and see how much of the driveway did I shovel in total, I did 1/4, plus I did another 1/4, which is 1/2 of the entire driveway. So think of all the questions we're answering here, right? Like what we're showing is mastery of this understanding. Like we're showing a mastery of how this works. The hard part is trying to figure out what the symbols actually represent. Ooh. Let's. Oh, let's have a look. Let's do another driveway. I understand, my friends. My apologies that the driveway is not the same size. But remember, this is like I just took my drone and I zoomed out, right? So this drone's a little closer. This drone's a little further out. Same driveway. Miss, can I assume that you did fourths this way originally? Okay, yeah, no, rock and roll. Okay, perfect. Would this represent your original shoveling? Did you do this one first? This one here? Awesome. I love this. By the way, everybody, remember, it doesn't matter. You get to pick which fourth. This is the same amount as that. If we zoom out and they're the same size driveway, this is the same amount of shoveling as that. Okay? Awesome. Take me through it, miss. How'd you do it? Look, super, super gnarly. So if I go like this and this, yeah, a Kit Kat bar that all of a sudden now we wanted to share with even more than four people. Holy smokes. Whoa. So hang on. So it sounds like you counted like one here, right? I think you're like, okay, so this is one chunk, two chunks, three chunks, but then you were like, well, okay, it's three chunks, not one chunk. I counted one chunk, you counted three. But then you were like, well, wait a second. These aren't fourths of the whole driveway. They're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. These are twelfths. Holy smokes. And that actually means that 1/4 must be the same as 3/12. Holy molies. That, my friends, is impressive. Well, and I'm wondering, like, let's look at this for a second. So, I want to do something here, and I wonder if we rearrange this a little bit. Like, I'm even gonna make a copy of what you did, but I want to play a little bit of, like, I want to play a bit of kind of like mix and match here. So you did this originally. Remember, this part of the driveway I don't really care about for this question, right? Because like that has not, this is what has to be done. You also went like this and you said, okay, well, we did this. Then you colored in these three. I wonder if I took these three pieces and I left this one there. And then yeah, like where do you want to, could I put this somewhere else where it would be more obvious to me? If I take it and I put it right there, and I put it over here, look at, doesn't, wait a second. So even though these are still 12ths, like look at this, I could still call it 1, 2, 3 out of 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I can still say that if I want, but I can also say something a little bit different, right, miss? Like I could say, wait a second, this is 1 out of 2, 3, 4. Holy smokes. And then look at, we still see this half was shoveled of the entire driveway. So this is the same as that. It looks different, but the quantity, the amount of the driveway that has been uncovered is exactly the same. And oh my gosh, my friends, I don't know about you, but I'm feeling more confident with this concept. I hope that you at home are, miss. I know you're feeling more confident. Friends, Even as adults, as teachers, we need to keep working on this stuff so that we better understand it too. So I hope that you're doing this work with us at home. I know some of you are sharing in the chat, which is fantastic. But if you're not, I'm telling you, you are missing out on an opportunity to really push your thinking forward. Let's see, is there any emojis out there? Like, how are people feeling about this here? I know for me, like, I'm feeling awesome right now. I hope you're feeling the same. Miss, how are you feeling about this concept? Yeah. Awesome, awesome. Okay, friends, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I can't wait to be back with you again on Friday, where we'll keep going. I think we've got another investigation we'll dive into. It'll be great. Here is the deal. I'm going to turn my camera off and start thanking some of my friends in the chat, those who participated, those who didn't. Remember, make sure that you get active. This is how you're going to learn the most and get the most out of this experience. So have an awesome day. Miss, take it away, and we will see you next time, friends. Well, there you have it, Math Moment Makers. We spent some time in the classroom. I hope you saw how we scaffolded this same context. Didn't have to spend as much time on day 2 building the curiosity in. Students are with us. They understand the context. And we've crafted a very specific string of problems for students to work with and to build on so that they can model and build on these modeling strategies that they're bringing to the table. Notice how throughout that lesson, we're listening to students. I know you couldn't hear them because of privacy concerns. You're not hearing the students. But I'm listening to the students and I'm trying to take what they're saying and what they're thinking and I'm trying to bring it to life. You'll notice also that I wasn't using like a bunch of high tech sort of gizmos and gadgets. I'm just using my document camera. And if it's in a classroom, I'm just modeling up on a whiteboard or a blackboard likely, okay? So you don't have to have all kinds of bells and whistles every single day of your math lesson. But what you do have to have is you have to have a context that students can ground their thinking in. And you have to be looking at the learning conceptually, both from the strategies that students are going to emerge, as well as through the models. Now, keep in mind, I've intentionally constructed this particular context to leverage the area model. We're going to be clearing a driveway, so there's this natural feeling for area, and therefore we're naturally bringing about the idea of the area model. All right. Other situations might bring up different models, like linear models. Okay. So you have to be thinking about that as you plan forward in your lessons. All right. Before I end, I just want to once again recap that you can head over to our Make Math Moments website. That is a 5-day unit. So remember, like, we're not talking about multiplying fractions one day and then like not, never coming back to it and sort of just knocking it off the list. We need to build proficiency here. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to do all 5 days back to back to back to back. But having at least a few solid days where students can feel grounded and feel comfortable in this context, and then ensuring that you come back to multiplying fractions at some point later in the year, either through a math talk or maybe through warm-up problems or through just sneaking them onto maybe an assessment that you might be giving to students at some point in the year, just to see how students retain that understanding and where they are now in that thinking. We don't want this to be a one-hit wonder where, today or this week we're focusing on fractions and then we don't talk about fractions again until next year. All right, so hopefully you found this helpful in your journey to problem-based lessons. Remember, you can come on over to our website, head over to the tasks area, and you'll be able to check out all of our different problem-based math units, and you'll be able to dive into the teacher guides and dive in to see what other contexts and ideas you might be able to bring into your own classroom, regardless of the grade level that you are teaching, K through 12. All right, until next time, I'm Kyle from Make Math Moments, and I can't wait to join you for some more learning in an upcoming video.